Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion titled AI for Security and Security for AI, Ensuring Resilience and Building Trust. Moderated by Ramia Farraj, Senior Presenter and Producer, Forbes Middle East. Our panelists are Rob Duhart, Chief Security Officer, Oracle, Dr. Bilel Jamoussi, Deputy Director, Telecommunications Standardization Bureau, ITU, Bob Willen, Global Managing Partner and Chairman of the Board, Kearney.
Hello. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to be here to have this very important conversation. In this session, we'll look at how AI can strengthen cybersecurity and the importance of securing AI itself against misuse. So let's begin with the fundamental question, gentlemen. Dr. Jamoussi, where is the bigger challenge today? Using AI to strengthen defenses or securing AI itself?
Thank you very much, and good morning to our colleagues. AI certainly is a tool that can process massive amounts of data, and usually when you're under threat, you need to process data and be able to make recommendations in real time. In that sense, AI helps with AI defenses, with cybersecurity defenses. But how do we know that the model used is trustworthy? And that's where adversarial AI comes in as a bigger challenge. And what is adversarial AI? To demystify it, basically with AI, you have the data used to train the model, you have the model, and you have the APIs or the protocols to access the model. And the new attack, what's called adversarial AI, is attacking the data or attacking the model or using those protocols to infer and get information on the training on the model. And so this is a cybersecurity skill. It's not the classical cybersecurity as in protecting infrastructure, protecting access control, protecting applications. We need to protect against poisoning data, poisoning the models, inferring that information, whether they model, or changing the machine learning model to give the wrong results without the users knowing that they're using the wrong model. That makes adversarial AI, the bigger challenge. We don't, as an industry and as a community, have enough skills to address. You need data scientists, you need model experts to be able to protect against this new attack surface. And then one addition is the agentic AI. When you add that are behaving on our behalf as users, how do we identify those agents? How do we ensure the protocols being used between agents are secure and protected? It's a whole new space of standardization, of development, of skills development. And so in summary to your question, I think adversarial AI is the real challenge today.
And we're not to deal with adversarial AI. How far are we from being able to deal with it?
We have some tools to testing those models. There is the MITRE Atlas example that is used for testing. There is another open source model called ART, AI Resilience. But these are really nascent models, and very few know how to use them. There's the counterfeit from Microsoft, another model to test these tools. So there yet, we are starting to work on it in our standards group in the ITU. Agentic AI is a top priority. So the community is really identifying those threats and starting to react to them.
Okay, Mr. Duhart, from Oracle's global vantage point, where do you see organizations most underprepared? Is it in harnessing AI for stronger defense, or is it in securing their AI systems?
First off, thank you for us. It's a pleasure to be here. I think the answer is a bit of both, which is unfortunate for those who are operating as I do. But from our vantage point, organizations are really thinking and need to think more, how do you secure your AI systems and the underlying models? Dr. Jamoussi mentioned model integrity, data supply chain. What we find is that many organizations are adopting AI, understanding the necessity for having security controls on all the data that underlies that AI, whether that be at the hardware layer or at the application layer. We also see that defensive AI is a bit slower than it perhaps should be. Dr. said this, but the effectiveness of the models depends on having trustworthy and well-governed models, which gets to that underlying issue that I mentioned earlier. There's some examples, happy to hit.
Please share with us some.
Absolutely, right? So many of us are old enough to remember when there was not online banking. And I knew some folks that would say, oh, I would never bank online. What I understand is that every bank they worked with was online, moving that data anyway. And so the reality is, whether you are actively implementing AI or not, all of your vendors, all of the third parties that you're working with, 9 times out of 10 are leveraging AI. And so the question is, how are you prepared for that? And what are you doing in your organization?
It is operating in the background. And what happens when these gaps play out inside boardrooms? And I'd like to ask Mr. Willen, from a strategy and a leadership perspective, what's the most underestimated risk that organizations face when they're embedding AI into critical processes?
Well, first, thank you, Ramia, for the questions and inviting us here, and certainly to the GCF team for hosting this event. I'll build on what Rob said. We certainly spend a lot of time with global corporations talking about AI adoption, AI reinvention, and I think probably the most prominent risk is it's not simply a technology that has to be added on top of what is done today. It really lends itself to a broader transformation that's required to take advantage of what AI has to offer, the opportunity, but also in terms of safeguarding the risks that it presents as well. That, again, is something which needs to be more holistic, needs to be more comprehensive in terms of the implementation that corporations go through. We had a report, AI leadership in age earlier this year, that 20% of chief executives report organizations, but they believe their organizations are ready for AI adoption, 20%. Ironically, 40% believe they were personally ready to lead, so somehow they have confidence in their leadership, perhaps. But I think the other statistic here is, this is in a World Economic Forum report, that 60% of organizations and leaders recognize that the risks are outpacing the innovations themselves. And again, that talks to the readiness I think we're both talking about here.
Well, how can we build trust in these systems? Dr. Jamoussi, what role do you believe that international standards and governance plays in ensuring AI systems are both resilient and trustworthy?
It plays a key role, and that's why in 2017 in ITU we launched the AI for Good Global Summit, way before generative AI and other applications came about. Last week in New York, we published the annual AI governance report, The Future of AI. If anyone would like a copy, we have a QR code. To really summarize the governance dialogue we had in July this year, where we brought ministers, CEOs from the private sector, academia, and civil society, this multi-stakeholder dialogue, which is key for governing AI, because all parties around the table. What came out this year, still a big lack of developing country participation. There are governance guidelines and guardrails in the US, in China, in Europe, but most developing countries are not equipped yet. They don't have a national AI strategy. The other report we published last week was the AI Standards Global Impact from Governance to Action. It was part of the General Assembly in New York, and it highlighted the over 700 standards that are available today, from EU, ISO, IEC, the IEEE. And the key highlight from this report was really the exchange database that we launched in July at the AI for Good to provide access to all the policymakers, regulators, the compliance executives, to be able to really see what's available. If you want to do a quick search on AI for health, you get all the health applications we developed jointly with WHO, on AI agriculture with the FAO, etc. So having the two tools, the governance as a overall mechanism, and having the tools like standards, conformity assessment, compliance, and regulation. And it should be really lightweight regulation at the moment because AI is moving so fast. So if we over-regulate, we risk of stifling innovation. If we don't regulate at all, we have many threats open. So there is a balance to be struck. These stakeholders, government, private sector, and researchers, the right balance. And that's the subject of this report on governance.
And you mentioned these countries which have underdeveloped AI systems. They are likely the weakest link in the international AI ecosystem, if we can put it that way. What type of danger do they pose?
Well, the danger is using some of these models without really having representative data. When you have biased data, not intentionally, just if you crawl the internet, 65% of the internet content is in English. There is 10% in Chinese, and then the percentages go down, Spanish 6%, and so on. So if your culture, your preferences, etc., are not represented, of course the models are trained on the data they have. And so the lack of participation of developing countries in providing data sets, in training their and practitioners, in having their policymakers really understand the levers of governing AI, poses a great danger because it's a global network and it's a global use of AI.
So, Mr. Duhart, where should industry self-regulation really take the lead, and how can private sector play, demonstrate credibility in securing AI?
I want to just tag along a bit what you said,
Sure.
Dr. Jamoussi. I think the process of having the right balance between government regulation and software is huge. There's three common pieces that we look for. We look for common guardrails at the infrastructure layer. We call this compliant by default at Oracle Cloud. That enables organizations, they be in developing countries or elsewhere, to scale in a way that you could anywhere else. We look for voluntary transparency. So as an organization, how do you step into the conversation and offer up the transparency for your models, your infrastructure, and beyond to earn and build trust? And then finally, shared governance and assurance frameworks, such that my organization, other organizations have similar standards so that customers can move their data across hyperscaling cloud providers and third-party vendors at will, having the same level of assurance and security.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Willen, how would you advise boards and C to really balance rapid AI adoption with safeguards so that innovation doesn't outpace resilience?
I think the board of directors have a very interesting challenge on this topic, because I think the expectation of stakeholders, of shareholders, is so high that a company is innovating, is on the leading edge, signing agreements, creating partnerships, so on. So there's a lot of pressure to do something innovation, to be seen as leading in today's age. Yet, stepping back from that, we recommend really talk about four areas. I think first is to make sure that governance is placed really at the center of an initiative, to make sure that there's a mechanism in place to really make the trade-offs that we're talking about today. I think a second topic is really recognizing technology is changing so quickly, so it's not a single set of decisions, but rather an iterative process and an organization needs to really manage throughout. The third has come up, which is really the skills and of a workforce, that the people need to continue to get better in recognizing the risks. And the last, as both speakers talked about, is you really see a commitment of many organizations actually working together with governments to really create a framework for security and resilience too. And those are incredibly important because I think it allows everyone to be more efficient in terms of managing these trade-offs.
So fundamentally, at the center of a broader AI strategy. And Dr. Jamoussi, what do you see as the key global priorities for AI, let's say over the next 5 years?
I would say if we look at the World Economic Forum report this year, the fourth top risk is misinformation and disinformation. This also came out last year at our AI governance dialogue. So as a result, we, with ISO and IEC, the World Standards Cooperation, we published 2 reports this July at the AI for Good Summit. A report on AI and multimedia authenticity, and a companion policy paper on trusting policy in multimedia authenticity. And the reason I brought these to share them is that these are amazing tools, and all the standards and tools available to combat deepfakes, to provide authenticity of voice, of data, of and images, and the policy guidelines on how a policymaker can use tools to prevent, detect, and react or response. And because if you lose trust in the we're seeing on the internet, we can't use it anymore. So these guidelines allow us to authenticate through watermark techniques, through using AI to detect whether the image has been tampered with. We provide that level of trust. Impact is tremendous because when you have elections and you have deepfakes, the candidates could be target and have target. And so the use of AI in this case is derailing the whole democratic system. And that's why we, the community, found this as one of the key strategic areas we need to invest in. And as we talked earlier, adversarial AI is a new technique that we need to invest in. To summarize the 3 areas of focus we have as an international community is the governance of AI, the standards development around AI, and of course, the skill development. And that's why this year we launched the AI Skills Coalition with many partners from here, from the private sector, and from other UN institutions to equip the world with the AI skills necessary, cybersecurity, but across the board because they're all interlinked.
Duhart, in terms of the technology side, what practical steps should organizations take now to ensure resilience and trust when deploying AI in their critical functions?
This is such an important question and such an important. As an operational security leader, we're in the business of managing. I think we all have to treat our AI workloads as critical infrastructure, right? And as you build your critical infrastructure, you have incident response, you have disaster recovery plans, you have plans that you manage when you lose that technology. You need that as well for your AI models. If you've become dependent, you've changed your workforce composition on the basis of these AI models, what do you do when they go away? How do you manage that? I think also we talk about provenance and supply chain security. So what data is feeding in? Dr. mentioned that. How are you feeding your models? How are you managing what is into how you're securing your organization? Continuous monitoring. We all know that things change rapidly in the cybersecurity space. How are you monitoring your capabilities and your functionality from the models themselves to the hardware that run the models? And then finally, and this has been mentioned a couple of times by Mr. Willen and others, cross-functional governance. So understanding how your legal teams, your compliance teams, HR teams, your business units, and then of course your security teams come together to manage these critical capabilities of the enterprise.
And Mr. Willen, what should really be at the top of the strategic agenda for boards in making AI both a business driver and also a trusted capability?
So I think one has to recognize that this is becoming a strategic capability. Yeah. And in saying that, meaning that it's not isolated in one department or one group or perhaps one process, one important process in the business, but it really is what we're talking about here consistently is it's a broad, comprehensive treatment of a subject, certainly the introduction of a technology and how it affects business, yet really becoming embedded in that business more holistically. So that's important to recognize, I think, at every step in terms of development, the investment that one makes, certainly the partnerships that one has. And behind all of that is certainly this balance between innovation and resilience and protection, right? Because we can't lose sight of the fact that this also is where one can gain competitive advantage in the future, right? The use of these tools, the use of the data in new and innovative ways that even envisioned some years ago, right? This is really becoming quickly a new reality, and that balance between innovation and resilience is, I think, paramount.
Let's talk about international cooperation. How can it accelerate both innovation and security? Dr. Jamoussi.
Great question, and we heard this morning from Secretary General Guterres in the opening. And as you know, at the world stage in New York, there has been the Global Digital Compact, and a few weeks ago, there was also an adoption of a resolution at the UN level on the modalities of AI implementation, part of the GDC. And those modalities include two concrete actions. One is having a global dialogue on AI governance in 2026 that will take place in Geneva as part of the AI for Good Summit, which we're very proud of, because we have been kind of creating the stepping stones towards this global dialogue on governance through the AI Summit, and having all countries of the world on having that dialogue in Geneva is an important milestone for that stakeholder engagement. We have also seen several countries take the initiative, such as the UK with the AI Summit, followed by Korea, by France this year, and next year India having its Action Summit. And these are important milestones in bringing the international community to the highest level to understand the opportunities and threats of AI. So we see this role that all of us as a community with the private sector play in shaping the future of AI so that it's human-centered, it really plays to the needs of the end user, and that we need to develop together the standards, the skills, and the governance techniques for AI.
We are running short on time, but I would love for each of our panelists to just address one final question. What is the single most important action leaders can take today to ensure AI is secure and trusted? Mr. Duhart.
I think one of the primary questions that I often challenge leaders on is their understanding of hardware-based security and the depth of your security and depth. So many organizations are focused on the application layers, rightfully so. But when you're dealing with large language models, understanding the hardware beneath that and understanding your users' ability to secure that hardware, both when they're in the data center, in your data center, or perhaps in the supply chain, is absolutely.
I think for me, what's important for every government and every enterprise to have an AI governance framework. Singapore published a model AI governance framework that many countries are adapting to their needs. And that framework includes stakeholders. It includes lawyers, technical experts, human resource, and so on. And I think the same applies for if you're using AI, you need to have a governance framework that ensures the security and trust of what you're using.
Mr. Willen.
I would repeat what I said earlier, which is really to AI holistically. I think for any organization, whether it's a business or a government organization, treating AI, both the opportunities, the risks, the resilience, making sure that's really treated in a very comprehensive and holistic fashion. I think that's the only way to balance the opportunities that are so abundant with the risks that we're all concerned about at the same time. Really in the way at which it deserves, and that's in a very holistic way.
I think it's clear that resilience and trust in AI will depend on how we balance innovation with security. And I want to thank you so much for your contributions and for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.